Les Bubka is a UK-based karate instructor, author, and mental health advocate, originally from Poland. He is known for his inclusive, learner-centered approach to teaching karate and is the founder of the organization Karate for Mental Health, which promotes the benefits of martial arts for mental well-being and supports disadvantaged students. Bubka has written books such as The Anxious Black Belt and The Dark Side of Karate, focusing on the intersection of karate and mental health. He is also recognized for adapting his teaching to support neurodiverse and disabled students, fostering a supportive and accessible training environment. Welcome to the Invisible Sensei podcast, Sensei Les Bubka. Good to have you. I became aware of your work about 3 years ago, and what impressed me was the way in which you found a really interesting intersection. And about, I guess, a fortnight ago, I was going through something and I thought I was feeling quite isolated. I was feeling quite full of doubt, and I know my triggers when it comes to moving into a depression spiral. And so I thought, what the heck? We'll see how good this guy really is. And you made time to have a conversation in which I walked away, felt as though there was some solidarity there. We talked about martial arts. We talked about habits and things like that. It was really great. So in terms of your karate journey, in terms of where you kind of saw there was a meeting of those things, in your own life, what was the meeting point? What was the moment when you went, maybe there's more to this than just punching and kicking?
Yes, so it's very clear moment because as we talked a couple of weeks ago, so I try to have time for friends and even a stranger ring me sometimes and we have a chat. Well, stranger sort of not so I don't know any somebody, but we are friends on Facebook and stuff like that. So people ringing me and we have a chat, and I'm fortunate to have people around me that when I have a problem, I can reach out and they always listen to me. So I try to reciprocate and have time for people. But when it clicked with the mental health, it was 2015. We decided to have a family. I had to quit my job. We decided that if it's going to be more beneficial me being a house husband instead of working and not seeing children. And then I decided that, hey, I would like to do something because my dad was an alcoholic. I had a huge anxiety, and I thought, well, the really one thing that I really know and like to do is karate. So I thought I'm going to volunteer in some organization. It meant to be with alcoholics that maybe through the sport we can help um, in charitable ways. So I donate my time, won't charge, and see how it goes. Unfortunately, I didn't found anything with alcoholics in the UK in my area, but I was sent into a at the time it was Catalyst. I think they don't have a that project. It was Welcome Project with people with mental health issues. They said, well, we can try and see what's going to happen. So I would be volunteering there for about 5 years till the project was shut down. Then we found the other association, other charity that took us in. And unfortunately, a couple months ago, we finished project with them, but I'm back next month to restart in some form. But, being there, I realized that my fears wasn't just normal because I always felt that my anxiety and fearness, I was just a skittish, fearful child, and there was nothing into it, right? But there was a kind of chain of events that pushed me my self-esteem and kind of self-worth down, which karate slowly built it up, and working with people with mental health and seeing their struggles and speaking with therapists and stuff like that kind of connected that karate to helping myself to come out from the kind of a being very fearful. And now, as you can see, I'm running a podcast as a challenge to my anxiety and writing books for the same reason and doing the seminars pretty much for the same reasons because it gave me a purpose when I was younger. My teacher at the time asked me to organize first seminar, international seminar, and seeing the result of overcoming that anxiety of fear and that it was a successful event kind of got me addicted to hitting challenges head on. And whatever kind of scares me, I really try to go into it and do it at least once. It might not be for me, but I'd at least want to try it. So it kind of, I don't know, it's a karate spirit, right? You fighting with challenges. So yeah, so starting with the project with mental health charity helped me to realize how many benefits karate had for me, and I thought maybe that's gonna be something that I can help people with, and rest is a history.
I kind of, and I think we've talked about this before, and I'm always really impressed by the way in which, when you're doing a podcast and in the martial arts community, martial arts community for me is so inspiring, and yet at the same time is one of the most emotionally dysfunctional spaces I've ever seen. And
Yeah,
the way that you've chosen to navigate that, especially with trolls, yes, trolls.
trolls.
The way in which you navigate trolls is amazing. But how for you, how much has, and let's be honest, the martial arts community can be pretty shit to each other. We were in such
Hmm.
there's such opportunities to connect and support each other and kind of learn from each other, and yet there is this extremely. You were talking about anxiety. There's an anxiety around opening your mind, opening your door, opening your training. How do you kind of navigate that, and what's your thoughts around maybe even where that comes from?
I used to really take really badly the comments, especially the negative ones. I started my channel. Some people called me a pioneer of martial arts on YouTube because I started our channel in 2007, but I really got into it in 2020, I suppose. And I have to say thanks to Ian Abernathy and people through the practical karate community who welcome me on their forum. So I've been kind of not posting stuff widely available, but on their forum to get a little bit of feedback in 2007. But it still took few good years to actually convince myself that I am worthy, right? Because as you said today on your podcast, sorry, today or yesterday, I was listening today that putting your work out there is very stressing, and you always think that your moves are shit and your technique is lacking and stuff like that. So it took me a long time to get myself build up the bravery to go out there and show my stuff. And hey ho, I found my own space. I've got my followers. I'm doing it in quotes because it's just friends supporting me, but I can call supporters. And I was listening to somebody. I can't remember. It might have been Matt Chapman from Midmaster System saying that really there's only three types of people in the world, and it doesn't matter what you're gonna do. There are those who love your work, who hate your work, and those who give a shit. So don't worry about those two, and focus on those who support you. And I try to stick to that. And I've noticed that with hey, I don't like bullies like yourself. And I'm not in a my wife is kind of always says, "Oh, just let it be, let it be." But more you give allowance to people to do stuff, the more thirst for it they get. So I thought nobody from my friends is really sticking up for themselves in martial arts comments. So I want to do something about it, and I will not let go. But it's very important for me, and that's kind of upbringing and thanks to my wife because I used to reply really harshly and like what if I can swear here, what the fuck do you know and stuff like that, why are you upsetting me and stuff like that. But my wife said, listen, if you're working with people with mental health, you just ruin your image. And I really took that to my heart, and I thought you actually right. That's the rare occasions when my wife is right. Just don't tell her, please, because I'm in trouble. But yeah, I took it to the heart, and I decided that I will do something about it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna take it emotionally. I'm not gonna use the foul language, and I'm gonna be super polite. And the more I reply to people, the less I get. There was a lot of months where I had lots of trolls, but being kind and inviting them to cooperate and explain why they are angry with me. I actually got some people to apologize to me and reflect on their behavior, and it's quite rewarding. And to be honest, now I have rarely any trolls coming to my space, which is kind of sad because I really like it.
You see, that's why I have to come to the UK and sit down with you, and you have to teach me this technique of enjoying the trolls. I don't get trolled very much, to be honest, but it's enough that I have kind of, it plays to a lot of insecurity on my part. And I think martial arts also is built around a hierarchy, especially
Mhm.
karate, and I think there is a big difference between Okinawan karate and Japanese karate and Japanese martial arts and so on and so forth. Um, and I think that sometimes that hierarchy is important in a cultural context. Like you go to Okinawa and train, you go to Japan and train, there's kind of two different competing ethos kind of going on. The unfortunate thing is that I think hierarchy sometimes becomes misinterpreted outside of Japan and Okinawa, and maybe in Okinawa itself, maybe in Japan as well. But I think the senpai kohai relationship is really, really important. Um, so for you, Sensei, the senpai being the senior person and the kohai being the junior person, what does that mean to you? How does that relationship go wrong? And ideally, what is a good senpai kohai relationship?
So I'm kind of been very lucky being free from a traditional burden and restrictions. My teacher comes from Kyokushin. He left Kyokushin before it was fashionable and found, let's say, somebody. I haven't found that person. So my belief is that he started his own system, but was not brave enough to take um, uh, ownership of it. And I think it's a cultural thing, what you just mentioned. In Poland, it's all about a lineage and karate style, and if you've got some master somewhere far away, it's looked better upon it. Which, for example, in UK, it took me a lot to rethink it because in UK it's based on surname. You are the teacher, like Ian Abernathy is known for his stuff. Most people associate me as a Les Bubka, not Shinaido Karate. So, but he was always an independent guy. We never been, we've been few big organizations, but for very short because he couldn't stand people telling him what to do, and I inherited from him that, and I can't stand big organization either. But we had a more open relationship. We've been like more friends than more like a family than like a structured military setup, and I try to cultivate that in my dojo. We usually don't use titles. That's why I've got only one student who addresses me sensei, and is a Aikido Jiu-Jitsu student who is very well trained in being polite, and he's in some ways more Japanese than Japanese people. He likes calligraphy and everything, which he's amazing at. So all the credit to him. But we usually don't address ourselves sensei and stuff. And I like to be transparent with them. If I don't, I keep telling them I don't know everything. You need to go and search. You want to have your karate. I can only give you some ideas, but I don't want you to copy me. And that's why I'm doing so many seminars, so I can bring um, people in and they can see different stuff. And one thing which my sensei said to me on the very beginning when we've been training, because when I went into the dojo, that he told me there's five other dojos in our small region of the big town, big city, and go and try them and choose the one which is good for you. And he said to me that the reason for it is that he likes to have friends who doing something they are passionate about instead of having a mediocre student who might not enjoy karate. And I try to do that as well. I introduce my guys to the BJJ, I introduce my guys to Aikido, because it might be that, they walked into the dojo thinking just martial arts. but they might be more geared mentally and physically to Aikido or Judo or Taekwondo or whatever. So I like to make sure that they are happy. And I have a friend who can bring something from outside to our dojo so I can steal it. So it improves my karate, if that makes sense and if that answers your question.
I think it'd be interesting to get your take on this. I have a friend of mine who's an incredible martial artist. He's Australian based. He had many years, decades, as a policeman, as a trainer, as a tactical trainer, while working in all kinds of really dangerous situations. He went to Okinawa in search of no, good to have that experience to train in Okinawa and meet some great people.
Hmm.
And spent years on Australia training with different people and doing different things and following a sensei. And finally, he kind of stepped out into his own expression of karate.
Hmm.
And, it's less for him, it's less of a do and more of a jitsu. He does karate
Hmm.
jitsu. And I think that he's gotten a lot of shit for it from people who have this idea that if your certificate doesn't have a Japanese name on the end of it, or if you're not receiving down ranks, you're not having to spend thousands of dollars to go to Japan and all the rest of it, that somehow that delegitimizes his rank and his ability. Now, to anyone who would say that, I say go and train with him for a session. He's also one of those guys that when people say that, rather than kind of shy away from it, he's kind of a bit like you in that regard. He'll go and train with them. He'll turn up. He'll wear a white belt. He'll go and train with them, and he gives them an opportunity to get to know them, not to show off or anything like that. And I really admire that. In terms of where karate is going, with that in mind, I think there are practitioners just as effective and just as good, if not better, all over the world that have never been to Japan and never been to Okinawa and all those sorts of things. I'm definitely an advocate for doing it if you can, but I don't think it's necessary. So, with that example in mind, where do you see karate heading to in, let's say, maybe the next 50 years? Because, I mean, let's be honest, karate has only been in the West in its current form for maybe 50, maybe 60 years, and it's only been in Japan and Okinawa in its current form for maybe 100 years.
So for me, the beauty of karate is that it's got the many faces. So I think that's the selling point for karate that you can do whichever karate you want to do. Right? You can go to the dojo and you can try practical karate like Sensei Ian Abernathy and others. You can come to my dojo, focus on your mental health or well-being. You can go to a sports karate when you're going to have a WKF style of training, when young people especially can find their strengths and win tournaments and build themselves up to something amazing and being an athlete. You can go to I put myself again there to our silver karate program where there's people starting at 65 to 100 years old doing katas very slowly. So um, I think it's gonna go everywhere. I think that every aspect of karate gonna be growing and finding their own niche and finding their own um, space. And we all need to work, I think, on a clarity of the message. I think one problem karate have compared to like Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that we're trying to be everything for everybody instead of just saying, hey, it's a karate, but I'm doing sports karate. I won't teach you self-defense, but I'm really good at sports, right? You want to win tournaments? Come with us, we take you there. Okay, I'm doing a self-defense. You're not gonna be winning competitions, but your awareness of danger is gonna be improved. You can feel safer and know the techniques within the system that's gonna help you um, to survive on a street or whatever situation it is. I never used a self-defense as an advertising tool because I'm staying away from it. That's not something that I'm interested in. I live in very safe environment. I don't go out in the evening because I've got kids. So I'm not gonna be in a pub with the 20-year-olds. And even if I am, I'm cautious and I kind of master the way of talking to people, so I can probably talk myself out of the situation, but I'm as well good with spotting the situation before it happens. And that's kind of in as well in realms of mental health and stuff. I think working with people in that space gave me a little bit of awareness because diverting a little bit from your question, we've been in Germany with my good friend Christian Wedewald, and there was a situation where you I could see straight away there was a tension between a couple, and I said, well, we need to address that before it's going to escalate. And Christian there wondering like, huh, what are you talking about? People having fun. I said, no, look at these people there, let's say. So he's really like, I don't see any of that stuff. Great to have you, but he's really good with applications and stuff like that. So everybody's got some sort of skill. We just in karate needs to be honest about what we're using karate for. For me, karate have got many spaces, and I hope that all the areas gonna expand, but with clarity.